Developers can now build apps that connect to devices inside of their users' homes. This is an example app that I've installed in my house, which allows the developer to control a light in my office just by sending one simple command. Hi, I'm John, and I'm a software developer. I love home automation, but I'm so frustrated by how fragmented the market is. Every manufacturer has different controls, every device behaves a little bit differently, and none of it seems to work together very well. That's why when I found Home Assistant and I was able to put that in place in my house as the central kind of control hub for my house, I was really thankful because it brought everything together. It made it so I could use Siri, Alexa, if I wanted to use Google, I could use all the different control systems. And I can also connect pretty much any device I want, regardless of technology, to Home Assistant. However, it still leaves a little bit to be desired for me as a developer, which is that I want to be able to write code and run it on my house. So I've been working on this idea that allows developers to build applications and request access to control certain aspects of a connected space, starting with homes that use Home Assistant. Let me show you how it works. I'm going to start with a brief introduction to the structure and architecture of the system, and then show you a demonstration of it actually in action. As a developer, you might be familiar with OAuth, the idea being that you can write an application and then request access to a given user's account on a different system. The way that we've set this up is to work something similar to that, where you write an application, and for each user that installs your application, you're essentially requesting access to some subset of the devices in their home. And the user has the ability to accept and grant you access or reject and deny you access to any number of devices within their home. And additionally, it allows the user who's installing the application to control specifically which devices your application can interact with. The application is broken down into kind of three main parts. The first is this idea of cloud control. Within your application, you create individual controls. Each control can be something like a switch or a light or a media player or a speaker, all the different kind of device classes you would expect to find in a home. That control is a virtual representation of the device or devices in the user's home. Your application knows about the control, it declares the control, and that control always exists for your application, regardless of how the user has installed or configured the application on their home. Then, from the control, when the user installs the application, they connect the controls into their home. So you will request, for example, to control a switch, and then the user, when they install the application, will grant you access to control a switch control within their house, and they'll connect that switch into one or more devices in their house that are switchable. That could be something like a toggle switch, an electric kettle, or even a light that may be dimmable and RGB enabled, but for your application, because you've declared a switch control, it will only interact as a switch on or off. Then finally, once the application is installed on the user's home, you can send commands to the home. The commands are sent using a declarative language that is very simple and very straightforward. For each type of control, you can send different commands. And what this does is it makes it so that there's one unified API, no matter what device class you're talking to or what manufacturer built the device. And this is also nice, the declarative language, in that your application can be written in any language. It can run on any tech stack, and it allows you as a developer to bring the control of your users' devices as close to your application's logic as possible, allowing you to integrate things like real-time data from the internet, existing database fields or things that are happening in your application, and then you can send commands to the controls and they will act on the user's device. So here's an example. This is an application called Hello World. It's very simple. It has one control. It's a switch. As a developer, I build an application, I create the switch, the user installs it, they connect the switch to a light within their house, and then you can send a command that says power on the light, and the light will turn on. As you can see here, it's just sending a post request to the command endpoint for that particular installation with a simple snippet of the declarative language. It just says, we have a switch named Hello World. I want to turn that switch on. Similarly, you can turn the switch off with a command just the same. Now, let's see it actually in action. We'll connect it to my house. This is a simple Hello World application that I built using our API. Once the user clicks install, they'll be presented with a screen that asks them to connect their home. Once the home is connected, they'll see the name of the application and a list of the controls within the application. In this case, we have a switch called Party Switch, and then they see all of the devices in their home that are switchable. Things can be turned on and off because this is a switch control. And they can choose one or more of these devices to connect to the control. So in my case, I'm going to connect the study light. You can see it's highlighted in green. Again, this is just a demonstration application. Now the application is installed and it's connected to a light within my home. I'll go back to the demo application. And here I'm sitting in my study right now, and the light in my study is on. So you can see we have an example with the light on, and we'll just look at this. To turn the light on, we would send a command that says set switch name, the name of the switch, power on. In our case, we want to turn the power off. And as you can see, the light in my room just turned off just by sending this one XML snippet. Now, this declarative language is really easy to write. It's just describing the state of the control that you want to have changed. And we can do all different kinds of things in here, and not just turn things on and off, but you could imagine we could have something for doing a transition over a certain period of time, a way to blink a light, or if it's a switch, you could do a momentary switch. There's all different things you could do. But just for an example, we can turn this light on and off, and it's pretty quick. And what's interesting here is what's actually happening is I have an application on the internet that is running on a web server somewhere. That application requested access to John's house, to my house. I allowed access by connecting my house. I chose which device to connect to the switch control. So even though my house has many devices, this application can't access any other devices other than the one switch. And when the developer sends a post command to this endpoint, it updates in my house in real time. So that's the demo. I would love to let some people build things with this. So if you're using Home Assistant and you want to tinker around, there's a link that you can click on that, and it's for developer early access. I'd love to help you build whatever you want. I'm open to feature requests. I'm looking forward to getting in touch with you all. Bye.